Hey guys, Dr. Frank here, founder of AddictionMindset, addiction recovery coaching services for people struggling with nicotine, marijuana, and energy drink or stimulant addiction. In today's brief video, we're going to spend some time talking about marijuana addiction, some of the withdrawals that people face when they're quitting, and some of the best practices or best techniques when it comes to quitting marijuana. Now, before I begin, a lot of people are going to hop on here and say, oh, Dr. Frank, that's BS. That's not true. You can't get addicted to marijuana. It's only a dependency. Maybe it's a mental addiction or psychological, but there's no physical addiction. I'm here to explain something, and I want to be crystal clear about this. You can 100% become addicted to marijuana, especially if we're talking about the marijuana carts or marijuana oil cartridges, and we'll go into that in more detail in a little bit. About 10%, and now this research is from a while ago, about 10% of marijuana users will develop an addiction. I was in that 10% of users who developed an addiction. It developed from dry herb. Guys, I had a Volcano vaporizer. I had a PAX 3 portable dry herb vaporizer out of a bowl, out of a one-hitter. Chances are I've smoked it. Chances are I've tried it throughout my marijuana addiction. Now, eventually, I moved on to smoking carts, and it was shortly after that I realized I had to quit, because that's when the addiction really skyrocketed. The ease of access to the cartridges, the higher concentrations of THC, and then only Lord knows what other substances, pesticides, and drugs I was inhaling through those cartridges. I can guarantee you I had a marijuana addiction, and I can absolutely guarantee you I went through ridiculous withdrawals when I was quitting. Now, before we go into the details, you have to understand a little bit on how marijuana works and how it impacts the body. So your body has something called an endocannabinoid system. Your body literally has a cannabinoid system. Marijuana comes from the cannabis plant. Within the cannabis plant, you can find little things called cannabinoids. THC and CBD being two primary cannabinoids found within the cannabis plant. Now again, your body makes its own naturally, and your body has receptors in your gut, in your brain, in your skin, in your pancreas, in your liver, in your kidneys, in your reproductive organs. Your body has receptors for these cannabinoids. Now, when you smoke marijuana, the primary thing that you're getting, especially on some of the stronger strains these days, is THC. The primary cannabinoid that you're inhaling is THC. Now, your body already makes its own THC and CBD. Not exactly, but kind of. When you inhale marijuana, okay, you consume THC, it binds directly to the receptors on your brainstem, and that then creates a high. That then creates the euphoric effect that you get from marijuana. Now, right off the bat, anything that creates a sense of euphoria, caffeine, sugar, marijuana, nicotine, absolutely 100% has the possibility of being addicting. And if you're watching this, you know that it's addicting. Chances are you're using it every day, and chances are you have a dependency on it. You can't eat without it. You can't go out and have fun with your friends without it. If you're watching this, chances are you have a marijuana addiction. I don't need to explain that it's possible for that to happen. But you could also be developing a dependency. You can't eat without it. You can't sleep without it. You can't laugh without it. You can't have a good time without it. Even though if you're watching this, chances are you're in a really depressing state right now in the addiction, which is okay. I was there too. Now, why does that happen? If you constantly consume marijuana or cannabis products all the time, every day, whatever it is, and you're young, you're under the age of 25, your body is going to stop making its own cannabinoids, potentially. And you start to rely on marijuana as a source of cannabinoids. Remember, your body already makes its own, but now you're replacing those with this outside source. and that could be leading to big trouble. This is the primary reason when people try and quit marijuana, their appetite is all screwed up. Their sleep patterns, they have tons of insomnia, is all screwed up. They start sweating, they're hot, they're cold, they're crying, they're laughing. The reason for this withdrawal is because this endocannabinoid system has been dramatically impacted by the consumption of marijuana THC containing products. You threw the system out of whack. Now when you quit, your body's saying, wait a second, I kind of stopped making my own cannabinoids for a little bit here. Where am I getting my cannabinoids from? Why aren't you smoking anymore? So this endocannabinoid system that regulates sleep, that regulates reproduction, that regulates your mood, feelings of joy, feelings of sadness, feelings of happiness, that regulates appetite, that regulates bone growth, bone density growth. The system becomes screwed up, and that's why you start to experience all these withdrawals. And don't tell me that you can't get addicted to marijuana. Try going, if you've been a chronic user, try going 30 days, 90 days. Try going 3 days without it. If you start to experience cravings, if you start to experience withdrawals, if you start to experience, oh my God, I can't sleep without it, insomnia, if you start to experience nausea, those are withdrawal symptoms from an addiction. It's normal to have those things because you had an addiction and probably, to a large extent, a dependency. Now, before I talk about actually quitting marijuana, I want to state, if you watch my channel, you guys know I'm 100% against the marijuana oils. I don't care if it's from a dispensary. I don't care if it's a dank vape pesticide cart. I don't care what you're smoking. The problem with the oils is they're too accessible. It used to be a process, just kind of like vaping, right? You wanted to smoke a cigarette, you'd smell bad, people would judge you. But then vaping came along, no more smell, it's pretty socially accepted, and I can hit this thing all day long. The oils that you find in the carts are a very similar story. Too accessible, way too much THC. God knows what other drugs, if you're buying, hot dog water carts, are available in this substance. And the ease of access. So the use goes up, the addiction goes up, and the dependency increases. Now, how do you quit marijuana? What should you expect when you quit? For most people, the first 3 days are the most challenging, and you just go cold turkey. Let's be honest. There's no way around this. You just stop. One day you make the decision, I'm going to quit, and you quit. Now, of course, I recommend getting support. We offer addiction recovery coaching. You have Marijuana Anonymous, an entire group like Alcoholics Anonymous or like Narcotics Anonymous, dedicated to helping people quit marijuana. It's a huge problem, and I'm telling you guys, the number of people addicted, I would venture to guess, is way beyond 10% at this point. But what you can expect, some insomnia, some sweating, nausea. Usually appetite is screwed up for about a month or so. Mood changes, maybe an initial depression, but that certainly gets better. Maybe some anxiety, but that certainly gets better. And it probably, a lot of you guys say, I smoke because it helps with the anxiety. I almost guarantee you, after you go 2 to 3 months of quitting, you're going to find that you have less anxiety. Now, if you're also pounding nicotine, pounding energy drinks, and not working on your mental health, I don't know. Then it's less likely. But if you quit, most people in our company that we work with say, wow, Dr. Frank, I can't believe how much my anxiety has improved. I can't believe how much better I'm actually feeling now. But I do want to emphasize this. When it comes to quitting marijuana, you have to see through the lies. That's one of the most important things. So marijuana is often promoted as a healthy lifestyle drug. Oh, it's the cure for everything. And it 100% has potential to help people. There's, without a doubt, it's an amazing plant. It has tons of benefits. But there's going to be a population of people who get addicted who wind up in a really, really bad place from their marijuana use. I was one of them. You can't tell me that that's not true. You can't tell other people that that's not the case. So you have to see through this image that marijuana is good for everyone and that it helps everyone. That's the first thing. The second thing is you might have to accept the fact that you can't live that marijuana lifestyle, that healthy lifestyle that you see advertised. Because ask yourself, do I feel good about this right now? Do I feel good about this addiction? Is it really helping me? Look around. Are you accomplishing your goals? Are you getting everything done? Are you really happy at the end of the day? Or are you addicted and dependent upon this substance to feel any sense of joy? Because you should be getting a sense of joy from going out there, working on your goals, working on your ambitions, improving yourself. That's where joy comes from. But often addiction takes that joy away from us. And that applies to any addiction. That could be marijuana addiction, nicotine addiction, cocaine addiction. It doesn't matter. Any addiction, right? So step number one, accept the fact that you need to quit and that you're going to quit and that you're probably never going to smoke again. Step number two, start to see through all the lies. All the things that you believe to be true about marijuana might not be true for you, and that's okay. And then step number three is assess where your health is at right now. I'm going to make a whole separate video on this, but people say, oh, Dr. Frank, there's nothing bad about marijuana. Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome, this is cyclical vomiting essentially, where you wake up, you're nauseous every morning, you're throwing up every day. This Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome is a really big problem, and it's a rapidly growing problem right now, especially with the use of more carts and more high concentration THC products. I'm going to make an entirely separate YouTube on that, but this syndrome can become absolutely devastating. And if you are at a point in your addiction where you've developed that, you can never smoke again, period. I mean, 6 years from now, 20 years from now, no THC, no CBD, never again, no cannabis, none. That is just it. You are at a serious risk. But we're going to make a separate video on that. So my best advice when you quit, get through the first 3 days, okay? The first 3 days are the most challenging. If you can get through the first 72, I promise you're going to start to see a lot more success. If you're quitting marijuana, you're quitting carts, get through the first 72, get through the first 3 days. For a majority of people, when it comes to quitting marijuana, and that's assuming that you're not smoking a pesticide cart that is laced with other drugs, maybe even nicotine to make it more addicting. That's what they do. That's just the reality. Usually after 3 days, people start to do really well. I will say this, marijuana is a relatively weak addiction. Once you develop the proper mindset for overcoming it, it becomes quite easy for a lot of people. Simple things, exercise in the morning, start to eat a healthier diet, maybe eat one meal a day. If you're used to doing that, eat one big meal at dinner time, but make sure it's full of healthy foods, fruits, vegetables, healthy proteins, things, healthy fats, things like that. I'm going to make a separate video for you guys on eating when it comes to marijuana, withdrawal, and quitting marijuana. I'll make a whole separate video on that. I guess the takeaway of this video, if you're quitting, just if you've hung in there long enough, is start to realize that this addiction and this lifestyle is no longer working for you. And you have to start to see through all of the lies portrayed by media and influencers and celebrities, not saying that it might be good for them, but the reality is if you're watching this, the place that you're in, the spot that you're in, it's probably not doing you any good right now. It's probably bringing you down a kind of dark place, and that's what addiction does. So that's important to realize. I think that's everything I want to say in this video. I'll make another video on nutrition. I'll make another video on cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. and we'll talk about that in more detail. But just start to think about all the lies that you have circulating in your head about marijuana and realize how it might not be true in your case. And then honestly, quit cold turkey, get through the first 3 or 4 days, and I have a feeling you're going to be very, very rapidly on your way to success. Stay tuned for more. Oh, reach out if you need help to our offices. If you need help quitting and you need addiction recovery coaching, or you need our free PDF and workbook on quitting addiction, reach out to the website link below. Happy to help you out. Thanks for tuning in.